after this happened to you, would you just sit there or would you run? So let's see what questions we have only on Paranormal, True or False. It is free to subscribe. Please subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thank you. Is this doll possessed? So we're in some type of a store, and the little stuffed animal species thing that's closest to us at the center bottom starts to lean slightly. Then the camera has interference and the screen goes multicolored. And then all of a sudden, in the center of all of those stuffed species is some type of creepy doll. Is this doll possessed? Is this shop haunted? Or is this some type of hoax or prank and it's all been staged? An editing effect can be used to create the static on the camera, and a string can be used to pull that doll out of the center of all those other dolls. So my guess is it's staged. Is this a ghost or a poltergeist or both? As we watch the security camera, suddenly in the lower right corner, we will start to see a blurry white image. What is that? Is it a ghost? Most likely a bug on the lens. And it probably disappears because it flies away or jumps away. This is potentially a different clip on a different day, just because this time it crawls further and then it starts to blend in with the shelves. So they expand backwards so that we have a wider view, and something hits those bottles on the shelf and they break. So I've slowed the footage down significantly because I'm trying to figure out what happens first. Because when I first saw it, it seemed to me like something was thrown through a window on the left hand side and hits the bottles on the right hand side. But everything was happening so fast that I wanted to slow it down significantly so we could actually see what's happening. And when I slow it down, it looks like the bottles on the right hand side explode. But could something have been thrown at them to cause them to explode? Something that blends in with the scene? Is it just weak glass or an extreme temperature change that caused the explosion of those bottles? Because they're breaking on the shelf, not when they're hitting the floor. Could a ghost have shattered these bottles? Yes. I wish I could see the bottles more clearly to see what's surrounding them. Even with trying to take a snapshot of each frame is not helping me understand what happened in this clip. Initial explosion, then we go to the next, the expansion of that explosion. Then things start to fall off the shelf. They continue to fall off the shelf and continue to fall off the shelf. And even with these types of falling off the shelf, it still doesn't make sense what actually caused the bottle to explode. So without seeing the environment around the bottles, I'm not sure what happened here. What is spooking this dog? This puppy is seeing, hearing, or smelling something, but is not sure what it is, and neither are we. But it appears that she keeps looking into this room and seeing or hearing something, but then backing up trying to get away from it. Could it be something in the wall like a mouse? Could it be somebody outside working in the yard? So finally the camera operator shows us this room. I also wonder if there's a shadow on the wall that would cause that dog to jump, because it looks like there's a window that points towards that table. And I just, you know, wonder if somebody walked by and the dog just saw the shadow and didn't look out the window to see that there was a person outside. But at the same time, animals are very sensitive, and it doesn't look like there's anything there, but the dog is seeing or hearing something right there and is feeling threatened by it. But I don't know if it's the shadows from the table or if he's actually sensing a ghost is right there. Does this shop have a poltergeist? At the back of this shop, a painting or picture frame falls off the wall. Was it not hung correctly? Did the adhesive fail, or did the hook come out of the wall? This specific shop in England constantly has items falling, and I don't know if it's an underground train that causes it or a poltergeist. Is this another poltergeist or the same poltergeist? This decoration is a rocker and it rocks forward and falls. Is this shop haunted, or are they just careless with their inventory? Different activity, same shop. With this one, I think it is gravity. I think they just put that lamp in a precarious position and it just naturally fell. What is spooking this dog? The dog and the person are laying on the bed. When the dog starts to react to something that's out in the hallway, the owner starts recording with their phone because the dog is starting to act spooked, like they're seeing something or hearing something. I zoomed in on the handle of the door in that hallway there to see if it's moving. It kind of looks like it's jiggling, but that could just be the movement of the camera. So I'm not sure what's going on, but this poor dog is upset about something. And again, animals often are able to sense paranormal activity. Who or what has strung up this man? This man is sleeping on his back when suddenly he sits bolt upright in bed, and then his feet are being yanked up out of the bed, and he's desperately trying to escape, and then he just sits there. What? So you go from supposedly being asleep, then you sit up, then you desperately are scratching the sheets off the bed while you're being elevated out of the bed, and instead of running, you just sit there? So he just jerks his whole butt up off the bed before he sits up. And fortunately, we see that his hands don't touch his feet before his feet start getting elevated. And at one point in time, we do get to see both ankles to see that there really doesn't appear to be any type of strapping on his ankles. But it looks like it has been color matched out and they've erased that strapping because right there, he's got a strap around his ankle. So it looks like they missed that right there. And that's why he's sitting in such a way to cover up that right leg. And then he brings his hand down and covers up that right leg so we can't see any more of that right leg. So I think this is staged. I think he rigged a wire and somebody just jerked him up from a pulley system on the ceiling. And that's why he's not getting up and running because he knows it's all staged. And two things that would have made this more believable had they done a better job of erasing that cable or strap around his ankle, but also had he got up and run from the room instead of just sitting there on the bed. Is there a poltergeist in this kitchen? Suddenly, dishes and plastic cups on the counter will start moving around and sliding around, and then a cabinet under the sink flies open. Is this a poltergeist? Is it a ghost? Have you ever noticed that a lot of this type of activity happens in a kitchen? I think it's because there's so many things in a kitchen that are lightweight and small, and you can just, add a string to them. But for whatever reason, I always want to see the poltergeist that's throwing the toilet paper. If you've seen a clip where a poltergeist is throwing the paper, please leave a comment below and let me know where that's at. Because that's what I want to see is stuff in the bathroom, like the toilet paper, just go flying across the room. I've already used my kitchen a couple of different times and showed you guys how easy it is to use a string to pull things open and around. So I'm just going to call this a string and move on. Is this a protective spirit? In the upper part of our screen, we see legs walking. They're attached to a man who is just walking around, looking around, seeing what's available, perhaps, just being suspicious. Then he sees the bicycle, and it looks like he's going to do something with this bicycle. He had a rope draped over his shoulder, and now he's setting the bike down, and it appears he's going to tie the rope to the bicycle. On the left-hand side, we see a rocking chair. In the center bottom, we see a ball. The man is still fooling around with the rope, but then he sets it on the ground. Is he communicating with somebody on the ground? Is this a second-story balcony? Is he going to lower the bicycle using this rope to a first floor? Suddenly, the ball at the bottom center starts moving around. It moves away from the guy and then comes flying at him, hovering, and he decides to jump over the fence and run away. This is another one of those where I wish I could see the environment a little bit better. Because in the upper left corner, we can see a tire. And when he runs away, he's on the same level as that tire is. So I fast forwarded through this part here. Because unless you're on the second floor, there wouldn't be a need for a rope. And even if you were on the second floor, that rope, the way he was planning on tying it, I don't think it would be long enough. And if you only have to clear like a 3 or 4 foot gap, you wouldn't need a rope, you could just toss the bike. Now onto the actual ball, and it suddenly moving, which that could have been wind, but then it flies towards him and hovers for a couple of seconds. It hovers like it's attached to a string. So, apparently that guy was planning on stealing the bicycle, based on watching the full clip. And then the ball comes towards him. If you're going to try to steal something, the last thing you do is just hang out there. You grab whatever it is you're going to grab and steal, and you run. You don't just hang out there and try and solve some type of an engineering problem. There's a show called World's Dumbest Criminals, and yeah, this guy should be on it. But because of how long he's staying there and all of this delay that he's doing, I just feel like it's staged. Because there's no sense of urgency with him. It's like he's thinking he has all day, and we can clearly see that there's a car right there in the upper left-hand corner At least that wheel belongs to a car. Most of the time, we don't understand the minds of criminals, and this is one of those times where it's just like, dude, what are you thinking? And then we get to the ball, and maybe the ball is protecting the family from the stupidity and not from the actual theft. I would like to think that this is a protective spirit, but I don't know. Everything just seems so staged to me. Well, it looks like the family gained a rope. Is this a little shop of horrors? Suddenly, from the right of our screen, something is thrown at that guy and he takes off running. So I've slowed this down. Maybe this is a woman and not a guy, sorry. But we see this product, I don't even know what it is, come flying down from the ceiling directly at her. Is it possible somebody is in another aisle and threw that product over the shelves towards that person? Did a ghost knock it off the shelf? Is this shop haunted? Does it have a poltergeist? The angle that it falls at is so steep that it had to have come from the top shelf or from another aisle being thrown over the top shelf. But anytime I can't see where the activity originated at, causes me to be skeptical because I feel like we don't see where it started or where it was originally from, and that just makes me skeptical. But even the person who's supposedly startled, she runs towards it initially instead of jumping backwards away from it. I mean, there was no hesitation on her part of just running forward. Before it had even stopped moving, she was running forward. That kind of defies how, at least I've always reacted to anything coming towards me or anywhere. I would have jumped backwards and probably knocked half the food off the shelves. So for me, I have two issues with this. It may be paranormal, but the fact that she doesn't jump backwards, that tells me she was expecting it. And the steep incline that it was being tossed at, I truly think it's just somebody on another aisle that tossed it. What do you think on this one? Do you think this is staged, or do you think this was a real paranormal event? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks. Is this a headless spirit? As this person is driving, they have pulled out their cell phone and are recording this guy that appears to have no head. Well, he doesn't look transparent, so I don't think he's a ghost. And we know the living have to have a head, so what's going wrong with here? They continue to follow him, but he continues to walk, supposedly without a head. I have two guesses on this one. Right here at the beginning. So right here, his head actually blends in with the background. So it's actually there, but the camera has now honed in on that person and thinks that that person doesn't have a head. So once we keep moving, it looks like he doesn't have a head because the cameras are so smart to recognize human beings that they thought the camera thought it actually was picking up everything. But when it was up against that darker background, he was just camouflaged. His head was just camouflaged with background. The other theory I have is just because there's some blurring of the pixels around his neck, I'm just wondering if they did some type of a color matching and erased out his head. So it would look this creepy paranormal clip that they would get a bunch of viral hits on, but in actuality, it's either a camera glitch or some type of visual effects. Not convinced paranormal at all. Is this a poltergeist? The residents open up the door and they see all these broken items on the floor. They're startled and confused, wondering what big rat did all that damage. But was it a rat? Not with those cabinets closing like that, it wasn't. So my first thought goes towards, okay, well, they just used a string. But the rigging on that, and you can see that there's not any catch or anything on the inside of that one cabinet for a string to stick to, so they would have had to use tape, and they could have wiped it out. But what startles me is how the cabinets actually close almost simultaneously, very much in sync, and that's difficult to do with string. Opening the cabinets, it would be easier, but the force used to pull those cabinets closed as quickly as they did, and they both start moving at the same time, even though they don't go at the same speed and don't close completely at the same time. They do start moving at the same time, but they're going towards a wall, not out in the open or not behind the camera. So that's what's difficult to rig on the string idea. Keep in mind, it's not impossible. I could figure out how to do that. It's just your rigging is different where you have to have multiple places that you're rigging that string to get it to pull that direction. Now, could they have used some type of a remote control device that just closed those doors? Absolutely. We're not able to see the bottom part of either one of those cabinets, so some type of engineering could have been done at the bottom. Now, typically, had I seen all of this stuff flying around in the room, I would have immediately dismissed it as not paranormal, totally staged, totally a hoax. But we're only seeing the one aspect of the paranormal activity, and that's the cabinet closing. So even though it's inferred that a ghost threw all that stuff on the floor, a pet could have done that. A human being, a toddler, could have done that. I have mixed feelings on this one, because I can see how it could be staged, even with string. But the fact that they limited the actual movement to just one aspect, and we didn't see all that other stuff flying around, I don't know. I'm not sure on this one. What do you guys think? I'm leaning towards they faked it, but it might be real. Is this a ghostly figure? On the left-hand side, we will suddenly see a ghostly figure step into frame. What is it? It lingers there, as if it's looking at the clothes on the rack. Is it a ghost? Is it a spirit? Is it a light reflection from the street? Or is it a bug on the lens? Is it a spider web dangling in front of the lens? Conveniently, we don't get to see the rest of the clip where this thing actually disappears off camera. So that tells me that it was most likely a bug and they cut the footage before we could tell that it was a bug. And I created a whole video on how you fake paranormal using bugs, so go check that one out. Whoa, Ouija board, whoa. Once these individuals remove their fingers from the planchette, it starts moving on its own. So this is one of those where they're not showing us under the table to make sure that nothing's moving it. The board itself is not laying flat, so is there a curve that's causing it to roll or move or slide down to that side of the board? Is the table being jostled? Is this a hoax or a prank? Or did they reach a spirit? And the answer is yes. Is this a cryptid or a creep? As they shine this flashlight in the yard, in the center of the screen we could see something running away from them. What is that thing? Is that a cryptid? Is it a creature? Is it a living person in a disguise? Well, we can try to zoom in and slow the footage down just to see what we end up with. But I don't think the footage is going to be good enough for us to tell one way or another. Could it be some type of computer graphics and just completely made up? Is it a prank? Is it a hoax? Is the person holding the phone and the flashlight in on this? So the flashlight movement goes up against the building and then swings down over to the trees on the right hand side, but it doesn't continue to point out. So I feel like that flashlight movement is a telltale sign that they're trying to capture a really creepy video and create paranormal, but it's not real paranormal. I think this is staged. And the flashlight is what causes me to question what they're doing here. What is this ghostly mass? We will suddenly see what appears to be a white mass that will come towards us and just float towards us. What was that? Is it dust? Is it a camera glitch? Is it a bug that's just flying by? I'm not convinced this one is paranormal. What do you think? Is this doll haunting this home? The claim is ever since they brought this doll home, they've been experiencing paranormal activity. And we just see suddenly that candle glow brighter. This is an artificial candle with a light bulb in it. Some of these type of candles have a remote control that allow you to adjust its settings. And you can change the color of it, or you can change how bright it is. The other thing that will happen with some light bulbs is that they will glow brighter just before they go out. I don't know if this light bulb is that type of a light bulb or not. There's another clip later involving this doll, so we'll wait until then to determine if this is paranormal or not. Is this another headless ghost? On the right side of the screen, we will suddenly see someone walk into frame, but they don't have a head. What is going on? Is this a costume? Is it a hoax? Is it a prank? Is it a ghost? Is it a camera glitch? Well, there's a cat in the lower right-hand corner, and the cat sees the person, so we definitely know something is there, so that means it's not computer graphics, and it's not a visual effect. Is this one of those stationary camera data mojages where it doesn't tell the computer everything it's picking up? Is it again a situation where the head is blending in with the background too much? Because we don't even see hands, so it's like even the hands are blending in with the background. So I think this smart camera isn't smart enough to detect a head or hands. As advanced as technology is, it still has a lot of bugs in it. Is this child a ghost? As the camera is pointed down this hallway, suddenly we will see what appears to be a child leaning out from around the wall. Is this child a ghost? Or is this child playing a prank? Is the camera operator in on this? And this is all staged? I wish I had more context on this one, because it's really not making sense to me. When I slow down the first part before they turn the camera away, you can barely even see if that there's anything there. He's not really showing himself, and they turn the camera away. So how did they get the image of him being so far out in the hallway? That was the zoomed in, slowed down prior to turning the camera away, and yet we turn around and we have this image. How? Where did this come from? So I feel like there might have been some switching of the order for this one, where they see this first, and then the kid, I guess, ducks back behind the wall, and as he ducks back behind the wall, that's when they turn away. But that's not how it was presented to us. So I'm not convinced this is paranormal, but I'm not sure what's going on here either. What moved this dustpan and this door? As we watch this dustpan in the lower left-hand corner, it will suddenly turn towards the left, and then it will fall over. But what caused it to fall over? It doesn't look like it hit the door, but then the door closes quickly. What caused the door to close so quickly? Well, if I recreated this, I would run string through the crack in the door, right about there, and that string would be attached to the handle of the dustpan. And I would be hiding off camera in this room here, and simply pull the handle of that dustpan towards me, and eventually pull it completely over. Then I would use a second string attached to the door and pull the door closed. Now, is that what they did? I don't know. I just know that's how I would recreate this paranormal activity. Could a ghost have done this? Absolutely. This footage is not being caught by a security camera. It's caught by somebody who actually put the camera right there, having both of these items perfectly in frame. This is something paranormal investigators do. I just don't know if the people who own this footage were paranormal investigators. Maybe you shouldn't copycat. This woman is wandering through what I believe is some type of a museum, and she comes across these dolls that appear to be playing hide and seek. So she decides to mimic them and copycat what they're doing. So she runs over and puts her head against her arms and leans against the wall. But did you see something on the left side? Yeah, a small child walked by. Is this a real ghost? Or is it a living child? I'm not really seeing any sharp edges, and she does look somewhat transparent. Could this be a camera glitch where it's focusing on the foreground and not the background? Could this just be a child that walks from one space into another room and that's why they disappear? Could it be a video effect where they've composited in by filming this scene twice? But it is just odd enough and unique enough that it's very possible it is a real ghost. Maybe she's looking for her hiding spot. So we are back with the doll that's haunting this room. So we're back with more activity. We have a toy that's lighting up, a bucket that rolls around, and even the doll herself is sitting up on the shelf up in the center of our screen and falls to the floor. I know there's a lot of reports about some dolls being haunted, but I'm wondering if it's the doll herself or the house that's haunted. In this space, it looks like we have a crib in the room. Is it possible that bringing younger children into the house or new children into the house, that is what is eliciting this activity? Is that they're actually attracted to the children in this room? And that's what caused the ghost to come out of the attic? Or out of the basement? Or is all of this staged? And things are being moved because they're on a string? I have mixed feelings on this one. Is this figure a ghost? We will suddenly see some type of figure walk from the left doorway into the center doorway. What was that? Is this just a camera glitch? One of those stationary data mirage things where the camera is not telling the computer that it's seeing something? Or is it a ghost? Is it some type of a hoax or prank? Is it staged? I'm thinking it's a camera glitch, and that's a living person. I have an ethical obligation as a certified fraud examiner to not con you into believing something is real when it has obviously been faked. If you agree or disagree with my analysis, please leave a comment below. You will find links to social media platforms for this channel as well as for Jim Riley in the description below. Be safe and don't investigate alone. If you appreciate this type of analytical analysis, please subscribe. And remember, question everything. Thanks for watching Paranormal, True or False.